and the ways in which it can transform your life. To lead us through this journey, please welcome JJ Flizanes.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely women. So I have some handouts. There's there's two handouts on one page. So just that we're going to start with the one that's 1 through 5, and then my picture's on that page. I'm not about giving a presentation that's just so I can hear myself speak. I actually would like to know what you all are interested in learning about, or a need that you may have come into the room with. So if anyone would like to share with me, and it might be private, so you don't have to share. I'm not going to go around and make you all speak, but I would like to have a conversation with you versus just present to you. So this isn't about me. This is about making sure that I can give you some value and that you walk out of this room either with some tips, some ideas, an action plan, some tools, or an inspiration and a different point of view about what you want and how you can get there. Anyone?
All of the above.
Okay, yes.
Just as you're over 50, looking at your metabolism and how prior to 50, you may have had, it was a little better, and then all of a sudden, that stuff starts slowing up a little bit.
Such a great topic because let me open the room first before I say this.
See, over 40 even.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because most women, no, let me rephrase that, that's unfair. Lots of women and lots of men don't take into consideration what, because they don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? So if you're not exercising, I have plenty of past clients that don't exercise and say, oh, I never did exercise. I've been the same weight all my life, and I, eat the same, and then all of a sudden after 50, it all changes. And then they go, oh, well now I'm exercising 5 days a week, I'm doing cardio, and I'm not losing the weight. Why? Because you didn't understand your metabolism and how it works. So I will talk to you about metabolism. Is anyone interested in that?
Yeah.
Everyone's interested in that? Okay, great. Then how many of you would like change in more passion in your relationships, or to attract more attention from a relationship or any relationship? Anyone interested in the love part of this? Okay, all right, just asking. Then let me quickly run through the first handout so that I'm not going, and I can spend the majority of the time on the back. All right, so on that first page, so my book, I guess I don't need to grab one because here's the sign. There I outline 5 steps. And it isn't just, it can help any relationship. I have people who are reading this who have been in 20-year marriages and they get rekindled. This isn't about someone else. It's about you and your relationship with your body, and your relationship with food, and your relationship with exercise, and your relationship with your self-talk. All of it is important. So in terms of the 5 steps in Fit to Love, the first step is going to be cleaning the slate. So no matter where you are in your life, you can always clean the slate. And there are several sections of your life that you can clean the slate in. I won't go over all of them right now, but I'll give you some ideas. Obviously, there's your physical body, so that would be doing a detox, or at least cleaning up your diet. But a detox would be a type of cleansing and cleaning of the slate, right? And then there's your physical space that you live in. Decluttering, purging, getting rid of things that don't serve you, getting rid of energy that's been stuck for a long period of time. I actually have a past client or a coaching client, she lives in Arizona, and she's been married now, well, she's on her 3rd marriage, but on her 2nd marriage, she had all of these papers in a drawer that she just didn't want to deal with, and they sat there for such a long period of time. And she came to the class because she saw the patterns that she was having and said, I don't want to do this anymore, obviously I need to learn something. She's already married, she already attracted the man, and she's happy, but she wants to stay married this time. So she had this drawer full of papers, and what a relief she said it was to go and clean those out. So in terms of purging, like, your stuff in your space gives you or takes energy away from you. When you purge things, and it's not just about being neat and clean, because trust me, I am not like Miss Neat and Clean or anal retentive on any level, but then going back to my mother's house, it drives me nuts to see all the stuff that they hang on to, because when you live in the same house for 30 or 40 years, it just all kind of builds up. But when you get rid of it, when you clean something, and you all know what that's like, right? You all cleaned out a closet or a drawer or a room, and it just feels so much more open and energetic. Okay, so there are other places in your life that you can also clean the slate. But starting over, you can always choose to start over today. Today can be a brand new day, and it is a brand new day. You get up in the morning, and today is a brand new day, as well as every hour is a brand new hour. But it's always cleaner for us to think, it's a new calendar day, right? It's in the morning again, I have a clean slate in this morning to make today different than yesterday, and to make it different and special than any other day. Step 2, a fit to love, is sexual fitness. And that has several parts to it as well. Obviously, the very obvious sexual fitness, sex is physical. So there's obviously the muscles that we use in our bedroom activities. And then there's also your relationship to your sexuality, a relationship to being a woman. In this room, I can talk mostly to you guys about, are you in touch with your feminine energy? Do you activate your feminine energy? How much feminine energy do you have? Because we all have a balance of masculine and feminine. But are you practicing your masculine more than your feminine? And if you're a working woman or a career woman, you probably are practicing your masculine energy. So whether you're single or married, men who are masculine don't respond to masculine energy from a woman the way you want them to respond. That's like them treating men and men the same way, right? They want a woman. There's a polarity that has to happen. And if we as women practice being masculine way more than men practice being feminine, and they will shift to us. I don't know if you know anyone in your life, a woman who maybe is very masculine, maybe works a couple jobs, works really hard, and if you think about maybe her husband, has he taken a more feminine role? Is he, because they'll adapt, because you're the one that's going to more likely do the changing to the masculine role, versus they're not going to willingly necessarily go to a feminine role, but they will just to have polarity. Okay, so step number 3. Step number 3 is creating a food love affair. This is one of my favorite chapters of my book, because the idea of food being a person. I want you to think of when you eat and having, what level of food love affair do you have with your food? Is food a problem? Do you have a love-hate relationship with food? Is it a dysfunctional relationship with food, or do you have a respect? So I take you through in the book the courtship, then the engagement, and then the marriage, and then food is sex. There's a whole transformation that you can have with your food, because if you're struggling at all with weight, and with gaining weight, losing weight, weight loss, maintaining something, or struggling at all with food, overeating, emotional eating, the first place to start would be to look at your relationship with food. And I give you tips and tools in the book to see what stage you're at and how you move to the next stage. Okay, because it's a gradual process, but it is like a person. That's why I outlined it like a courtship. So for instance, in my life, how you can start and how I recommend people start, if you never cook your food, you always eat out or someone cooks it for you, is to start by making one meal a week. One meal a week from fresh ingredients that you buy at the store, that you handle. You don't have the TV on, you don't have the radio on, you and your food have a relationship. And you cook it, and you clean it, and you cut it, and you appreciate it, and you learn about it. What does this do to my body? In my workshop, I did a workshop based on the book in May, and it was such an amazing experience to have all these women with all the food laid out, and we had the list of what the ingredients were, and I had everyone go through every single ingredient and what it does to your body. And then to watch light bulbs go off when they didn't know what that food did to their body or what that food did to their body. And then as we sort of blessed it at the same time, we did a little blessing of the food and thanking it for being here and to nourish our bodies. And now we know exactly how it's nourishing our bodies because we went through the list. And then the next thing you know, I saw women who eat, who like to eat very little and be very satisfied. They have a whole different experience with food. Rather than unconsciously eating and talking and just being distracted, consciously knowing and having this connection, this energetic connection with the food that goes in your body. That's step number 3. Okay, step number 4 is wear sexy underwear. And I know there's another room that's addressing that very detailed. And I don't mean necessarily wear sexy underwear. This is about activating your sexual energy and not for anybody else. This isn't about wearing sexy underwear so someone else is going to see you later. This is about knowing underneath your clothes you're doing something special for you. And it's not even about, because trust me, this didn't work for me. I wear workout clothes. I'm not wearing a bra. I have to wear a sports bra. I'm not going to wear pretty bras and panties underneath my workout clothes because I'm going to work out afterwards. So for me, wear sexy underwear was more about dancing, or buying myself flowers, or wearing nice jewelry, or putting makeup on, or doing my hair, or doing something that would activate that feminine energy that I could carry with me all day long to make myself feel special. It's not about anybody else. But if you don't love and respect you, how can you expect someone else to? It has to start with your relationship with you, and that's what the whole book's about. Step number 5. is about gratitude. And I'm not going to talk too much about gratitude because we just all heard it downstairs with Sarah, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about being in that state of mind because you always have the ability to look at something from two different perspectives, from a lack, right, or from what can I appreciate. And just like Sarah, I practice every single day appreciating. I have a game I play with my best friend. We call each other, and sometimes like yesterday, and I called her 6 times. Now, she doesn't have to answer the phone. I leave messages. In fact, I prefer that because then I can ramble and keep the positive energy going and appreciate. Just feel my, it's amazing when you start deciding to look at things in that way, how much energy and better you feel. You just get a perspective that you didn't have before. Because it is. It's so easy to rant and rave about what's not working or to think, oh, I didn't accomplish this today or that didn't get done. But then you leave with this empty feeling of that you didn't do what you set out to do. So gratitude is step number 5. Okay. Questions? Comments? Yes?
Could you elaborate on the detox on the first step 1?
Sure. A physical detox?
What if you just said detox? So
Detox is there, in the Clean the Slate, there are 4 areas that you can clean the slate in, and one of them is physical. And for the physical body, a detox would be one of the ways I would suggest doing it. And you can do, there are a ton of detoxes out there, half of them aren't healthy. The Master Cleanse, no, very bad. Not that the combination of the ingredients is bad. The combination of the ingredients is fine. But you'll see when we start talking about metabolism why it's a very bad thing to do nothing but drink this drink for days or weeks. And why when he does Atkins, loses, or did Atkins, I don't know if anyone's doing it anymore, I hope not, that you lose all this weight at first, right? And then you gain it back and more because you killed your metabolism. So finding a healthy detox. If you want any suggestions, you can speak with me afterwards, and I can give some suggestions. There's the food that you eat. I mean, I've done a raw detox for a week. I have a product line that I use to do like sort of regular detoxes, like 3 or 4 times a year. There's also colonics will help with detoxing, right? So there's several different ways that you can detox, but definitely, and it's done to truly detoxify your body. It's not a diet. Everyone loses weight. But it shouldn't be looked at like that. It should be to clean you out. It's like your dryer. Would you really attempt to continue to dry your clothes and never clean the lint trap? No, because it wouldn't be efficient. It would take too long. All right, so detoxifying your body is necessary in today's culture with all the chemicals that are floating around and everything. So, yes?
Unfortunately, I have eaten so incorrectly over my life that my metabolism is like not existent. So the more I work out, I burn a little more, but it just slows my body down even more.
So let's
Does your book ever address any of that?
Yes.
Because doctors seem to want to, there just seems to be no help.
The ab book will probably address it a little bit more than the Fit to Love book will, but I will address it right now. Okay. Metabolism, because that's what you guys in the workout part, right? So let's flip the page over to the second sheet. Let me go through this, and because what's going to come up in this, because this is your template. The fifth principle is your template for your exercise or non-exercise, whatever. It's just a place to start. So if you're asking yourself, if I'm not getting results, then let me exercise. But people just think, and all people think, oh, I'm just going to exercise. What does that mean? Really? What? I'll exercise more. How? What are you doing? There are hundreds of ways that I could classify exercise, right? And so exercise more gives me no data. And you need a little more specific data in order to make choices so that you get the results that you want. Otherwise, you're just going to waste time. So the FIT principle, and the reason why there are 2 of them is because I want you to separate your cardio from your resistance training. And now this is what I want you to do on your sheet, is create a chart like this, put the lines in. I didn't do that. So now let's talk about what the difference is. I'm going to make the top one cardio, I'm going to put a C, and the bottom one resistance training. Let's talk about the difference between cardiovascular exercise and resistance training. Who can tell me what cardiovascular training is and what it does?
Works your heart.
Yes, it works your heart. Yes.
Bring your heart rate up.
It brings your heart rate up. It keeps your heart rate up. Yes.
Burn fat.
It can burn fat. It's not guaranteed to burn fat. So, by the way, a tip about the treadmills and all the things that you may see that have the fat burning zone. That's not correct. Okay. It's when you take one bit of science and then you build a whole story around it. That's what's happened. Because you're all burning fat right now. because you're not moving. The whole theory and the science behind it is when you work at a lower level, you burn a larger percentage of fat. This is true. So right now, you're all burning a larger percentage of fat as your fuel source. But as you start to increase your intensity level, so in terms of calories, you actually burn more calories of fat the higher that you work and the harder that you work, period. But the percentage changes. Does that make sense? So even though the percentage right now of fat that you're burning is not enough for you to get any results from. Does that make sense? So the harder that you work, the percentage of fat you're burning goes down, but you still burn more calories and you still get more results. You still burn fat, you just burn a percentage less. Does that make sense?
It's confusing, but it's.
I hear you.
And I would attempt to do the numbers, but I'm not, the numbers thing is not my strength, so I would, like be up here going, so let me just skip the number part. So if it's 10, so if you're burning 80% of fat right now, and you're burning 1 calorie every 10 minutes, right? And then, but if you get up and walk around, and now you're burning 50% calories of fat from fat, but now you're burning 50 calories every 10 minutes, that's the difference, okay? But it's also good for the manufacturers because then you won't wear the machine down. Okay, so cardiovascular work. What does cardiovascular work not do?
Build muscle.
Yes. Okay, now let's go over here and talk about metabolism. So you have 2 parts of your metabolism. One you can control. Well, actually you can control both, but one you shouldn't touch. And that would be your nervous system. Nervous system and your muscular system. Who has a bigger gas tank? A Hummer or an Escort? Why?
Bigger.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So the higher your metabolism, the more calories you need, the more energy you need. So rather than stepping on the scale, I would recommend everyone get a body fat test. That number is way more important than how much you weigh on the scale. Because don't forget, that mass number on the scale is your skin, hair, blood, bones, food inside of you, plasma, organs, brain, it's everything in you, water. So when you step on the scale and you've lost 5 pounds, you have no idea what you've lost. It could have been water, which is why you gained it back so quickly the next day. So hopefully no one's stepping, don't say, yes, I'm doing this. I hope no one's stepping on the scale every day. Because what happens is the scale, and you give the power to the scale to say, should I be happy today? Or should I be upset today? Do I have something to worry about or not? Because the reality of it is, if you loved the way you looked, it wouldn't matter what the number was. Period. So I would start to distance myself, if I were you, anyone who's struggling with this and this very not good relationship with the power you give to the scale, of looking at what your body fat percentage is, because that's that tells me what health level you're at, your activity level, the strength level, the ability of the composition of you. Because if you're 150 pounds and 20% body fat, or 150 pounds and 50% body fat, that's very different. Still 150 pounds, still the same number, but the composition is very different. And it's going to look very different. Question?
Just the new scales that are out that read your weight and your body composition, the ones that you buy from Apple,
Yes.
are those accurate?
I haven't been on one recently. I would say it's a better number than no number, but I actually have, you can all Google body fat composition. I would prefer that you do a tape measure test. The U.S. Navy and the Marines, they all have their own body composition test. If you Google U.S. Navy body composition test, you can do it for free at home with a tape measure. And the other reason why I prefer that method over the scale is because you're also getting a number for the tape measure. So you get to see if you go up or go down.
What was it? U.S. Navy what?
U.S. Navy body composition or body fat test. And then this way you're taking all the different measurements and you now have, because again, so I'm going to give an example. In fact, a client of mine who I coach over the phone, she lives in Chicago, was looking at the scale and watching very intently the number on the scale and then deciding if she felt successful because of the number on the scale, but wasn't going back to look at all the other things that had happened from point A to point B. Until our coaching session happened, and I said, okay, well, let's go back and let's do your measurements again. So she did her measurements, and Josh, do you remember what it was Josh's mother. Do you remember what it was like 7.5 inches that she had lost, 3.5% body fat, and 10 pounds. So after remeasuring, because, you get stuck on a number. You get stuck on a number, so it's like, oh, 2, whatever, and you just watching that number, and you're so intent on that number that you're just not looking at the whole picture. So I prefer that you do the body fat tests where you're getting much more information. So, yes.
What's our goal for body fat composition as a woman?
Well, that would be dependent on your lifestyle and what you're willing to work up to. Does that make sense? The healthiest would be between about, and this 16% is like a female basketball player. Okay, so 16% would be where I would say I wouldn't go lower than 16%. And also, please, ladies, remember you have breasts, and breasts are fat. So the larger the breasts are, the more the body fat will be higher. And so take that in consideration, because I'm one of those people, and these are real. And so when I go in the beach area and I see all these Barbie doll looking perfect women with, who are also very, very lean, I know that's not real. Unless I know they've all had boob jobs, but because they were the skinny A-cup people who didn't take a lot of exercise for them to get leaner, and then they put the boobs on, right? So please don't forget that this is a consideration, right, for your numbers. So 16 would be the lowest, and I would say it's okay, excellent would be 19 to 20, or 16 to 22 would be like excellent. 22 to 25 would be good. 25 to 28 would still be average, but it could get better. And then 30 and above, because I think clinical is 30. Clinically obese, based on body fat percentage, is around 30%.
Yes,
Yeah, well, it's a third of your body weight. Now, let's get rid of the judgment for a second, because I don't want there to be like, oh, I'm this, right? Because that's what everyone's do. Oh, I'm above average. Oh, I'm obese, whatever. Like, let go of that for a second. It's a number. And when you do a program and it starts to change, the number goes down. So just focus on the percentage that you lose. Okay, and that's why we're going to do this plan, because you're going to start somewhere with your numbers, and then you're going to do some exercise or not, or diet, or whatever you're going to do. Change your diet, not diet, but change your diet. And then you're going to test again, and you're going to look at all the numbers. And how you're going to know if it's working or not is what's happening to all the numbers. And when it stops working, you're going to use this plan to change what you're doing so that you get more progress, more success, and better numbers. Okay? Because it's not about getting on a plan and staying on that exact plan, because you adapt. Your body adapts. That's why when you start any program, whether it be walking, running, and you do it, you get results at first, because it's new, it's unaccustomed stimulus, you adapt, and then you keep doing it, and then the progress slows down, and then you plateau. Because you're good enough for that level. Time to move on. Time to do something a little bit more intense. All right, so you have your nervous system and your muscular system. Your nervous system, I'm sure you can all tell that I'm a type A personality, right? So I talk fast, I walk fast, I think fast. My nervous system's going. So I'm probably burning, I don't know how many calories I'm burning, but I'm burning calories. Now there are people, so that's one extreme. And then we have the opposite extreme, which is people who are very slow. So think of like the surfer guy versus me, right? The surfer guy that's just sitting there, or people in the South because of the heat. They talk real slow. Like I can't even do it. Anyway, so people take fat burning pills in order to burn extra calories. That's how you can affect your nervous system, but I'm recommending you don't do that, please. It's very, very, very dangerous, and it's not natural. You're not going to live on these for the rest of your life. So work within your genetic potential. Maximize what you already have and what you're good at, because if you don't have type A personality and you're slower, that's great. You probably have way less stress. There are benefits to that. So enjoy that and accept that, and don't try to change it because you want to lose a few pounds. Okay, there are other things you can do. Now your muscular system is the example I gave you about the Hummer versus the Escort. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn. That's why I want you to know your body fat percentage. When the body fat starts to go down, even if the number stays the same. I had another client, she refused to do any cardio on her own or any other things on her own. She golfed and she didn't even walk. She took the little cart. So I would come once or twice a week and do the workout with her, and after a while, she started to feel different, but the weight wasn't changing. So we retested her. Well, yes, the weight was exactly the same, but she lost 3% body fat and 3 inches around her waist, and other inches. So the number stayed the same, the composition changed. So she lost fat, and she gained muscle. Okay? Make sense? So that's why I don't want you to focus on the number so much. Because you give it so much power, and it's not the whole story. All right, so muscular system. So that's why you want the resistance training. So what happens after 50 that changes this? Anyone know? Because? Because?
No.
Yes, no, that's right.
Yeah.
Because hormones. Okay, so you know it's coming, or you've already gone through it. But that's why I had my hormones tested at 30, so I knew when I matched them later with bioidentical where I'm going, because I don't want the dip. I want to match where I was, and I don't want to do random testing and say, well, how do you feel? No, this is where I was when I was 30, and now and that's what I want to match later. Okay, so in terms of your muscular system, you lose muscle right away because of hormones. But that doesn't mean you're at this victim place of your body that you can't do anything about it. That's why you do resistance training, to build the muscle back up. Okay? The more muscle you have, and I'm not talking about bulky bodybuilder muscle, get that out of your head if that's in your head. I'm talking about, because I don't look like a bodybuilder and I do a lot of resistance training. So in fact, when I was training in New York, I had a client, the heavier the weight, the smaller she got. So in her legs, because she just got leaner and leaner and she shed the fat. So it's not about big weight, big muscle, small weight, small muscle at all. Okay? There's a science to resistance training. There's a very specific science to resistance training. And unfortunately, a lot of trainers don't know it. I was director of education for New York Sports Club, and I came to California thinking, oh my God, it's like the mecca of trainers. They're going to be really smart. Oh my God. No, because they look good. And as long as they look good and they have good personality and you like them, you'll hire them. But they don't know anything. They don't have to learn science. It's California. Everyone can run around with their shirts off. But in New York, where it's cold and the competition's a little higher and there's Wall Street and people a little bit, they're taking more into consideration and the competition's really high. So anyway, as I digress. So what does this stand for? It's on your sheet, but F is for frequency, I is for intensity, first T is for time, the second T is for type. So cardiovascular. So frequency is how many times are you working out in a 7-day period? This is in days. Now I'll give you an example. I used to dance a lot more than I do now. And during the day, I may have had a workout with a client, either a client or I don't work out with clients very much, but with a friend. And then at night I went dancing. So that's 2 times in one day. Now I'm not recommending that you work out 2 times in one day necessarily, but it got counted as 2 times. So it's not about the days of the week, it's about the number of times. So how many times do you do cardio? So right now what I want you to do is fill this out for me. Because we're going to make another line actually, because I want you to do what you're doing now and what you're going to do tomorrow. Okay, so frequency. So, you can do a number of 2 to 3 or 3, whatever. If it's, if it fluctuates, that's fine. So write the number of times a week you do something cardiovascular.
And how would you define cardiovascular? 20 minutes or?
Anything that gets your heart rate up, even if it's 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Like if you did something specific for 5 minutes of jumping jacks or jumping rope, that's cardio. And if it's only 5 minutes, then it's 5 minutes. Okay, next, intensity. On a scale of 1 to 10, I use the RPE scale. RPE means rate of perceived exertion. How hard do I think I'm working? You always should use some bit of RPE to be aware of how hard you think you're working. However, your perception is flawed because you have a threshold. And you're going to go to your comfort level of that threshold. So what I recommend, if you're serious about weight loss or getting more fit and healthy, and blood pressure going down and your heart rate going down and feeling better, is to get a heart rate monitor. Okay, because that's going to be the most accurate way to know exactly what's going on inside of you. So when I was in New York and working for New York Sports Club, every Saturday morning when we opened the gym, this one woman would come in and she was a runner and she would go right to her treadmill, like she had her treadmill. And it was clockwork. And one day, she fell off the treadmill. She flew off. She fainted. Why? Because she wasn't paying attention to her symptoms. Because she was in this routine of unconscious, like just routine. I'm going to come in, I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to pay any attention. And if I feel it doesn't matter, I'm going to work through it. She didn't have a heart rate monitor on. So had she had a heart rate monitor on, because I've worked with clients that are in their 70s. I have one guy who's an attorney, owns a firm, very stressed out. He's in his 70s and his heart rate was at 177. I'm like, laying down. That's when I said, okay. I told his wife, you need to get an acupuncturist in here ASAP, and you need to take him to the doctor and check his heart. Because that could have been a heart attack. 177 laying down. Wow. Okay, now 177 for me is good. I need to be, but he's 70 years old and he was laying down not doing cardio, so right, you can know what's going on inside. So get a heart rate monitor. Time. How much time do you spend doing cardio? So this was the number of times. Now this is the duration during the time. So is it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, hour? And then after time, the type. What kind? What is it? And write down all the different kinds if you do multiple kinds. Do you walk? You swim? You hike? You take a spin class? You do Zumba? Whatever. So write down all the different types that you do. And now we're going to do it again for resistance training. So fill that out for me with resistance training. What is resistance training? What is classified as resistance training? Anything with tubing or weights or your body weight. So some yoga could be considered, hatha yoga probably can't be considered resistance training, but other more intense types of yoga can be considered resistance training. Boxing would be somewhere in between cardio and resistance, more cardio than resistance. That's a hard one. Pilates, maybe. Only if you feel your muscles the next day. There are some Pilates instructors that are really easy and it's all core work and you're on the floor the whole time and there's maybe some hip and legs, but Pilates is not a place to get weight loss. So, because you don't burn a lot of calories and you're not really building a lot of muscle, because that's not what it's supposed to be focused on. It's not about that. So again, but if you have a really hard Pilates teacher, or I know there are some Pilates places out there that really are designed to build muscle, then yes, it's really your call based on the class that you take. Okay, so now looking at this, the next question you ask yourself, this is what I do right now. Then the next question you ask yourself is, am I getting results? And if the answer is no, then what can I change? Now you don't abandon this, and you don't just go, well, I'm going to do something completely different. Because then you're always just jumping and you have no control over what you're doing and how to easily just adjust. It's like cooking, right? You just make a little adjustment, it changes things. Or an ingredient. A little ingredient can make a huge difference. So, do you want to add another day? Just change one of these things to start. I had a client that started out, she was 327 pounds. She lost 80 pounds in the first year. And during that first year, her cardio was treadmill. And this never changed in 1 year. Because it was convenient, she could do it at her house, she was watching her Oprah or whatever she was watching on TV, and it was built in the schedule and it was easy, so she's going to do it. Now I've got another client that's been coaching with me for 3 years who I can't get off her recumbent bike. And it's very hard because it's not doing anything for her. Her body has adapted. She doesn't work hard enough, and it's the same motion over and over and over and over again. Now her knees are starting to hurt, but I can't get her off of it. Okay, so again, there are reasons why and why not based on your lifestyle. You have to decide what works for you, what's the easiest. And my recommendation to you would be to choose the easiest next step. Don't make it hard, because then you won't do it. Just make it easy. What's so easy? So sometimes it could be, I'm going to add a little bit more time. Or I'm going to get a heart rate monitor, I'm going to monitor it, I'm going to work a little harder. Or I'm going to do interval training. Or I'm just going to do a minute or two of like harder work, and then I'll come back down to a little lower level. Okay, same thing here. Now, unless you understand resistance training, this may be a harder one for you to put together yourself. You can, absolutely, but then once you start to become really fit, and you want to go to the next level, then you sort of need the science behind how to put a program together. Okay, because there is a science, it's physiology. So any questions about that? None? Yes?
Okay, in regards to the fitness training, say you've been doing it, and of course you see inches, and so I've got it in mind not to look at a scale anymore, but then all of a sudden, it's not that you have an injury, but say for instance your knee, like I have a knee, it's not an injury or anything like that, it's just that it begins to ache, and there's a lot of pain in it. Again, no injury, but I'm doing all of those things, and I see what you're saying because it's giving me a new perspective on it. What happens when that slows your whole production?
Absolutely. Okay, so there's another presentation I do, and it's about the 5 ways to put together a workout program, and this is only one component of it. Okay, something else you want to consider about your workout plan is joint integrity. My backbone's with me. Okay. I carry them around to explain to people and to show them, especially when they have a problem with the joint. Anybody have a problem with the joint? All right, what do we got? Knees. All right, great. Okay, here's your What?
A lot of metal.
You have a lot of metal? Okay, you know what bone this is? Okay, good. Bone? Good. Okay, and your patella is not attached, you know that, right? It floats. It's in a capsule, it's encapsulated in your patella tendon, which connects one bone to the other bone. Okay? So, for instance, knee tracking. One aspect of working out your knees, well, this could go on, we need about 10 more hours for this, seriously, to really teach you what I know and then to look at some of the things you're going to do. But let me give you an example. Oh, I'm wearing a dress. I forgot about that. Okay, let's look at squats for a second, okay? If I do a squat that looks like this, where's the pressure? Okay, if I do a squat that... Okay, I'm just going to put my feet together. If I do a squat that looks like this, where is my pressure? It's in between, right? Because I can actually, the only way for me to get it, well, it would actually look like this. So imagine your gravity line. It's a straight line, okay? And the joint furthest away from your gravity line is the one that's going to experience the most of the resistance from this exercise, right? So if I'm doing, now, but there are ways to, so depending on if you have knee problems or not, I would want to move you in such a way and cue you on how to use your muscles. See, the next step in this not only is the joints, but how to use your muscle. You know what, I'm going to have you guys stand up. Everybody stand up for a second, because I have to, and we won't do a big exercise, but I do need you to experience this. All right, so what I want you to do is just to imagine your quadricep muscle. Put your hand on your quad. Okay, and you're going to pull your leg up, I know everyone's wearing skirts and dresses. You're going to pull your leg up just maybe a couple inches off the floor with this muscle. So imagine it's shortening and it's what's pulling your leg up, and hold your leg out and just hold it there for a second. Well, actually we're going to hold it for a minute. I know, and your F heels on, I know, I'm doing this in heels with a skirt. Okay, now put it back down, but don't rest it, and then lift it again. Thinking about pulling from that top muscle. Okay, and keep holding it. Can you feel that muscle? Are you aware of that muscle? Put your legs down and you can sit down. Just a very short demonstration, but when people lift their legs, sometimes they kick it, and they're thinking of underneath. You can turn on your muscles with your brain. And if you are not aware of what your muscles are supposed to be doing in your exercises, and consciously, it's like in my ab book, when I got asked to write this book, which made me nuts for a year, I said I would never buy this, not that you should buy the book, but I would never buy this book because the biggest thing to learn about abs is how to move them. Most people do crunches and it looks like this. Where do your abs attach? Your ribs. Your ribs to your pelvis. So doesn't it make sense that shouldn't this be the first thing that moves? Not my head or my neck or my shoulders or my arms?
Right.
Okay, this is where it's attached. So, and I'm not going to get down on the floor and show you because I'm wearing a dress. But imagine, so if I move from my rib cage first, it looks like this. My ribs, my abs are pulling. They're initiating the move versus my head and my shoulders throwing myself up. So there's a lot of science to working out that's not so simple, right? And so when it comes to joints, you have 4 different forces you're dealing with in your knees. You've got compression, which is natural and normal. There's nothing wrong with compression. It's gravity, right? People think, oh, compression. We're compressing all day long. Okay, there's distraction when you turn upside down, which is pulling the joint apart. There's rotation, which this joint shouldn't do. Yes? We all know this is a hinge joint, shouldn't rotate. Right? And we have translation, which is this. Now, translation is normal to a certain degree as well. But a walking lunge, everyone know what a walking lunge is?
Yeah.
Not a fan. Why? Because the motion is forward. And where do you think that pressure is? Do a stationary lunge. Keep it so that you get rid of the translation. When you do a walking lunge, you're wearing down this meniscus. Okay?
So why do all personal trainers want to have you do walking lunges?
Truthfully, well, because they're hard, and you have to balance yourself, which again, because when you can get to hear the story of when I was first training, I got certified. It was an ACE certification, which is a very common certification. This was 15 years ago. And I walked into the gym. I'm certified, and I don't know how to use any of the equipment in the room. I'm certified. And I'm going to take your body and put it on these machines, and I'm going to read the whole thing, and I'm going to put you on it. Now, I didn't do that. And that's how I actually started to learn about training, because I knew that there's more to this than what the test I just took. And so I asked one of the trainers, and he knew, and I was watching other people, but he tested me, he put me on a machine, and he asked me to describe what was working and what was going on. And I did, and I guessed it right, but oh, did that bother me? It was like I was being found out. And I knew it, because I have high integrity, so I knew, but I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I said, well, how do I learn this information? And he said, take this test, and it was National Academy of Sports Medicine back then. And it was science. It was basically science. Learn about joints, how they're put together. Okay, another quick dips. Everyone know what a dip is? It just will sear in your brain so much better if I just do it. Okay, so here's your shoulder joint. How much time do I have?
10, you have 10 minutes.
Great. Okay. Normally I go over all the time, so keeping within this is challenging for me. I can talk a lot. All right, so your shoulder joint looks like this, right? And it's a ball and socket joint. And your hip joint, which is also the same kind of joint in the lower extremity versus the upper extremity, looks like this. How many of you are nurses? Anybody in this room nurse? Okay. All right, just want to know how many people were body aware or medically aware. Okay, so this fits, yes? Like a puzzle piece, fits. The hip has less mobility, but it has more stability than your shoulder joint. Ball, socket. Now, it fits. It's supposed to look like this because you have way more mobility in your shoulder than you do in your hip. But how does this stay in place?
Soft tissue.
Yeah, soft tissue. Okay, your muscles. Yeah, definitely. Your connective tissue. All right, so a dip. What's a dip an exercise for? Anyone know? Where your triceps located? It connects your shoulder and your elbow back here. Okay, it's the opposite of the bicep. All right, so imagine, so it's a hinge. This is a hinge joint. All right, imagine your car for a second. All right, now imagine you're opening your car door up. See the hinge between the door and the car? Okay, now I want you to walk to the end of the door, put your hands on it, and now bounce on it for about 15 minutes. And what do you think is going to happen to the hinge?
Yeah. We won't be able to close.
Yeah. That might not work. I'm feeling a lot of air there, so I don't know what you're seeing, and I can't see it. So I won't. You're not seeing anything?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so
You can run up with your discus down like that.
perfect. Okay?
Yeah.
Ready? So my shoulder joint is my hinge, yes? So I have all of my body weight on this hinge joint, where my muscle is its weakest. For what? It's above my tricep. Now, is it hard? Do you feel it? Do you build your tricep? Yes, but is it a high-risk exercise for your joint? Yes. Are there 100 other exercises you could do that wouldn't tax the integrity of your joint? So, trainers don't need to learn this because they can get certified in a weekend. So when you get injured, you don't know that it was necessarily the exercise you were doing. I had a friend who was doing walking lunges. She got hypothesis, doing walking lunges. And then she stopped, she felt better. Okay, but right now, so there's rehab things you can do for your hips and for your, but the bottom line for all of it is turn it on. I'll tell you one more quick story. I have a 72-year-old client in Hancock Park. She's very unbalanced and her spine is out of whack completely. Like from behind, she looked like this. Like literally her whole body weight was being supported by one leg. So she limped and she was overweight. And we did 2 sessions on the floor, our first 2 sessions, because I'm not going to squat or lunge or do anything like that, obviously. And plus, that's an advanced exercise. I don't do that with anyone until maybe the 5th or 6th session, depending on your fitness level. But because I want to activate your body, I want to turn on muscles. So we did 2 sessions on the floor, and then the 3rd session, she opens the door for me. I come in, I sit down, and she walks past me, and I go, oh, I think she's walking better. But I'm not going to tell her that because it sounds like I'm selling or something. Like, oh, look, you know. So I said, Lee, how are you feeling today? She goes, I'm walking better. Is it possible that I gained muscle in 2 sessions? I said, no. What we did was we turned on muscle that you didn't have active before. So now it makes it easier to walk. So so you have dormant muscles, even if you are working out. That's another reason why you want to adjust your program and change it and do different things and activate, and the wear and tear on your joints, rotating your tires. You would never drive your car forever without rotating your tires. So same thing with the exercise in your joints. Okay, so if you're always doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to adapt to it, so it's going to stop working. If you just keep increasing intensity levels, then you're going to wear the joint down. So figuring out how to activate the muscles in safer ways for your joints would be the name of the game. Any other questions? I have a couple minutes left.
I just want to go back to the, I know I'm just going way off course, but the bioidenticals.
Yes.
Are you're ready to take those?
I'm already doing some progesterone. I have been estrogen dominant my entire life. It's caused cysts on my ovaries, which then rupture. It's like endometriosis, but it's not endometriosis. And so I went on birth control later than I should have. And that threw off my hormones. And now I'm off of that, and I'm still estrogen dominant. And so to balance that, I'm doing all kinds of things, homeopathy, as well as a little bit of progesterone cream, which is working. I mean, I can feel a difference. So yes, and I work with a doctor and a nutritionist who do bioidentical hormones. I work with Dr. Alan Peters and Jeannie Peters, who are Nourishing Wellness, for anyone who knows them. They're under teacher. I definitely recommend it. Yes, absolutely. Questions?
For the resistance, do you recommend going up in weight, to break, kind of where you're at, or do you recommend doing more time?
It depends on what your program looks like now. There is a physiology to building muscle, and it's about 60 seconds of resistance, time under tension for the muscle to get to a fatigue or failure point. But depending on how your program is structured, how fast you're moving, how many reps, all that kind of stuff, I would have to know a little bit more about. Slower is better. Bless you. Slower is always better. The slower you can go and think about what's going on in your body, if you can visualize in your mind the muscles that are working and how they're moving your bones, because muscle moves bones, then that will increase your, again, connection, the way you turn on the muscles, how they activate, and potentially how they also grow and build and get stronger. So, yes.
Where are you based out of? Are you?
It's all, okay, so if anyone wants any individual help, there's some forms back there. I'll be in the back to answer the questions, but no, I come to you. I build you a program that you can do on your own in your home or anywhere.
This is 20. And then this one is
You're welcome. If anyone has any other questions, I'll be back. Okay, thank you ladies. Have a wonderful rest of your day.